An enigmatic voice narrates that before a catastrophic flood engulfed the world, several ominous events unfolded. The focus is on one particular legend, one among many that have been immortalized in myths over the centuries. In a time ruled by entities from other worlds, known as the ancient gods, the earth was under their grim dominion. From a palace on the island of Minos, where the bull cult was universally revered, these gods exerted immense power. The story tells how, as the dark realm expanded, its decadence and insatiable greed fostered human madness. In their desperate quest for dominance, men devised a heinous plan, to sacrifice a queen to the bull god. She surrendered to the beastly deity, and from their union, a monstrous creature was born. This beast devoured the blood of its mother, who perished during the horrific birth. This infamous act further solidified the power of the Dark Empire. As the monster grew, so did its ferocity. To contain its savage nature, it was confined within a labyrinth. Later, an edict was issued in the dark realm of Minos. Following the murder of a prince, every 3 years, 8 youths were torn from their homes and offered as sacrifices within the labyrinth's intricate passages. As the 50th sacrifice approached, Theo and his friend Danu, while tending to their flock on a cold hillside, spotted a dark figure in the distance. Danu recalled his father's words, who had always viewed that man as an ominous omen, warning that something catastrophic was imminent. Upon returning home, Theo shared with his father the unsettling vision he had in the woods. In a heartfelt conversation with Danu, Theo confesses how much he misses a girl who had been taken by the beast as a sacrifice, pondering how many more lives would be lost to an ancient law of vengeance. His father tries to offer comfort, but Theo remains deeply troubled by the cruel reality they face. Meanwhile, Danu confides in his girlfriend Morna, expressing his fear of losing her when the soldiers come for more victims. In a tense village meeting led by Theo's father, the community debates the possibility of rebelling to protect their children. The idea of confronting the established power terrifies them, as they fear complete annihilation. During the discussion, someone questions why Theo has never been selected for the sacrifice, to which his father responds that he cannot bear the thought of losing his only son and future leader. One morning, Theo notices a pack of wolves stalking his flock and rushes to intervene. Despite his efforts, he arrives too late to save a sheep. Seeing that a wolf still lingers nearby, Theo decides to pursue it. During the chase, he comes across a tree with a strange mark on its bark. His attention is then drawn to the entrance of a cave, where the same enigmatic figure he had seen before beckons him closer. Inside the cavern, Theo encounters the figure, an old woman accompanied by the wolf. She speaks to him about the mark on the tree, revealing its significance as she possesses the other half of a broken medallion. She explains that the other part of the medallion belonged to her beloved, who was also taken as a sacrifice. The old woman tells Theo that although the young girl was taken, she has not been sacrificed. She is, in fact, hidden within the labyrinth beneath the opulent palace. Initially skeptical, Theo doubts the woman's words, but she insists that if he wants to rescue his beloved, he must confront and defeat the feared Minotaur. That night, Theo is haunted by dreams of his beloved being torn from his life. At dawn, he is abruptly awakened by his father, who instructs him to move the flock in anticipation of the soldiers' imminent arrival. Theo recounts his encounter with the witch. From the cave to his father, clinging to the hope that his love still lives. However, to reunite with her, he must defeat the Minotaur. His father, skeptical and dismissive, warns Theo about the madness of facing a creature considered a god, invincible to mortals. Meanwhile, that afternoon, imperial ships are seen approaching, and by nightfall, they storm the village, following his father's orders. Here is the reworded script, closely following the original content. Theo finds himself deep in the mountains, yet the witch's haunting revelation consumes his thoughts. When he hears the soldiers dragging young people from their homes, Theo, driven by a resolute impulse, decides to intervene. In a bold move, he distracts one of the soldiers and takes the place of a young woman, secretly joining the group of selected individuals. From a distance, his father watches with sorrow as the young people depart, unaware that his own son is among them. At sea, the young captives are confined in a sturdy iron cage. Danu, observing his fellow prisoners, is shocked to discover that Theo is among them, disguised under blankets. Shortly after, in a conversation with Tyro, a young man who doubts Theo's abilities, Theo boldly declares his intention to kill the beast. Although skeptical, Tyro admits that he shares the same desire to see the monster dead. Upon arriving at the Dark Empire, the young people are immediately brought before Emperor Duin, who orders the sacrifice to begin. Initially, he selects 2 young women to be brought before his throne, where they see a hole covered by thick iron bars, through which the young people will be thrown. However, before Duin can throw the girls in, Theo intervenes, declaring that the girls will not be food for the beast. Duan, unimpressed, orders him to be silent and calls for the kingdom's princess, who carries an animal skull in her hand. She makes the two young women inhale a vapor from the skull and then kisses them, putting them into a trance-like state, making them eager to be thrown to the beast. The iron bars are opened, and Duan summons the monster. At first, it does not appear, but soon the shadow of its horns becomes visible, and a monstrous roar shakes the entire place. Seizing the opportunity, Theo and Tyro attempt to attack but are easily overpowered. Duan then orders the pit to be prepared for the sacrifice of all 8 young people together. Afterward, he reprimands the princess for speaking out of turn. The 8 captives are thrown into an area to await their sacrifice. Later, the princess, whose name is Rafaela, speaks quietly with one of her ladies, instructing her to bring Theo before her, as she had been warned of his arrival by the old witch. Theo is seized and taken to Rafaela's chamber, where she attempts to seduce him. However, Theo resists her advances and demands to know what she wants from him. Rafaela reveals that she wants Theo to help her free herself from the beast. All of this is observed by Duan, who has been secretly spying on them from the beginning. Rafaela also mentions a girl from the last offering, who turns out to be Fan, the woman taken from Theo. She asks Theo to save her, promising to help him in return. At that moment, Duan bursts in with his men and orders Theo to be imprisoned. Theo tries to resist but is quickly sedated. Duan then threatens Rafaela and orders that Theo be taken to the pit where the beast resides. Soon, the other young people are also brought in. After placing Theo in the labyrinth, they are thrown in one by one through different entrances scattered around the palace, all leading towards the location of the beast. Theo hears the screams of his friends echoing through the labyrinth and is unsure what to do. The sound of heavy breathing is followed by a terrifying roar as the beast emerges to claim its first victim, a devout young woman who becomes the monster's first sacrifice. Theo, trying to remain calm amidst the chaos, continues exploring the labyrinth. As they move forward, the strange and pungent smell of gas emanating from a fissure in the rock serves as a constant reminder of the lurking danger. Morna, still unable to speak, uses the noise of stones to guide Theo toward her, a desperate form of communication in the darkness. Though Theo doesn't fully understand Morna's intentions, a distant scream captures his attention, and together they run towards the source of the sound. Elsewhere in the labyrinth, Ben, desperate and terrified, searches for help. As she moves some loose stones, she discovers a desiccated body, causing her to scream in horror. At that moment, Danu approaches, intensifying Ben's fright. However, this allows Theo and Morna to quickly find them. Now reunited, the 4 debate what to do next. Ben is desperate to leave the labyrinth as soon as possible, but Theo and the others are determined to search for the remaining captives, unsure if they are still alive. Meanwhile, Rafaela is taken to Duan's room, where she is expected to submit as his woman and the mother of his future child. However, upon seeing one of the nearby holes, she runs toward it and stands at the edge, declaring that she would rather surrender herself to the beast than submit to Duan. With a final act of defiance, she jumps into the void. Theo and the others arrive at the spot where the devout young woman was killed, finding only blood and remnants of her clothing scattered around. They also see the enormous footprint of the creature. As they observe it, Tyro appears, covering Danu's mouth and signaling the others to remain silent, warning them that the beast is very close. Tyro declares that he will kill the creature himself but needs someone to act as bait. Theo volunteers while the others hide nearby, armed with whatever they can find, waiting for the beast to approach so they can attack. Something approaches, and when everyone jumps to attack, they realize it's just Rafaela. She claims to know a way out and that her servant is already waiting for them. Ben, reluctant to trust her, begins to leave, but Theo pleads with her not to go. However, Ben starts saying hurtful things, claiming she doesn't care about anyone and is ashamed of being born in Theo's village. As she continues speaking, she is suddenly killed by the horn of the beast, which appears behind her, forcing everyone else to flee for their lives. After putting some distance between themselves and the creature, they find their other friend, Danu, who soon regains consciousness. With Rafaela's guidance, they continue and approach the exit she had assured them. Just as the servant is about to lead them out, Duan arrives with his men and stops him, then kills the servant. When they reach the exit door, Rafaela calls for her servant to open it, but only silence answers. Panic sets in as they try to break down the door while hearing the beast's heavy breathing approaching. Time is running out, and the massive creature is closing in. In their frantic escape, they knock down one of the youths and roar furiously at everyone. The beast swiftly claims another victim, impaling a youth with its horn while emitting deafening roars. Dio, Danu, and Amina run in one direction, while Rafaela is cornered by the beast. Dee and Tyro manage to reach another part of the maze, where they find water and drink to quench their great thirst. Theo and the others continue wandering aimlessly when they suddenly encounter a strange man who claims he has survived there for a long time by eating rats and insects. The man asks them to follow him to another location. The stranger, named Tur, guides the group to a small opening between the rocks and shows them a mini-map he has made of the place, as he has been there for a long time. The man shows signs of having a disturbed mind, saying nonsensical things, but he also provides useful information, such as when the creature sleeps. This seems valuable to Theo. Meanwhile, Princess Rafaela reveals that she has escaped from the beast and is walking through the maze. At the same time, Duan shouts at the creature from the edge of the pit, declaring that he will retrieve Rafaela. Then, we see the madman approaching a door that also leads to the maze and opening it. Theo still firmly believes that Fan is alive, so he threatens Tur, demanding to know where she is, thinking that since Tur has lived there so long, he might know. However, the shouts from this confrontation attract the attention of the terrible creature approaching them. The monster begins to try to knock down the stone walls, causing some debris to fall. However, the beast stops when it hears the voice of Duke Colin calling for Rafaela and heads toward him. The beast snorts as it advances toward him, but the coward, hearing it, quickly exits through the door, leaving his soldier inside, who is quickly and brutally killed. Theo continues to force Tur to reveal where Fan is. Upon finding half of the medallion that belonged to her, he becomes even more convinced that she is alive. He takes the map made by Tur and forces him to point out where she might be, deciding to go there. Dee and Tyro still wander aimlessly and begin to develop feelings for each other, with Tyro promising to get her out of there. They reach one of the palace's entrances, so they decide to climb. Tyro goes first, and upon reaching the iron bars, urgently calls for Dee to come up and grab his hand. While still climbing, the creature arrives below. Despite Ty's pleas for Dee not to look down, she does, and upon seeing the monster, she starts screaming, attracting its attention. Unfortunately, as expected, the young woman cannot hold on due to panic and falls directly onto the horn of the beast. Theo continues walking and at some point begins to hear Fan's voice. Suddenly, she appears behind him, making him very happy, and he runs to embrace her. However, this joy quickly turns into deep sadness when he wakes from the trance and realizes that he was actually embracing the long-dead body of Fan. He realizes that he now must help his friends who are still alive, so he leaves the place of death to find Danu and the others. At the same time, after asking Morna to return to Turk's hideout, Danu continues searching for Theo. Seeing what seems to be him ahead, he shouts his name, but realizing something is wrong, he stops and looks closer. He then notices that it is actually the beast advancing to attack him, and with no chance of escape, he screams for Theo to take care of Morna for him. Theo, hearing the voice of his friend echoing all around and not knowing where to go to help him, can only listen as Danu is killed by the monster. This enrages him, and throwing the half of the iron medallion against the walls of the labyrinth sparks a small flame. It also ignites a light of hope in Theo's heart that they might make it out of this place alive. Rafaela comes close to him and reveals the truth about the story of the Minotaur and the reason for the sacrifices made to it. She says that it was actually the Minotaur who killed the prince in the past, and to cover up the disgrace, they fabricated a story that it was a man from Theo's village, condemning the villagers to always offer young people as sacrifices to pay a false debt. Rafaela then encourages Theo even more to fight and defeat the beast. She leads him to the source of the gas leaking from that place, where the smell is very strong. While still observing the fissure from which the gas escapes, the Minotaur appears behind them, roaring furiously. At that moment, Tyro also arrives, furious at having lost Dee, and tells Theo to run while he charges at the beast. But he is quickly impaled by its horns, though he continues to fight. Meanwhile, Theo takes Rafaela to a safe place and tells her to hide. The Minotaur heads to the water and then turns back toward where the monster is. Theo arrives, but it's too late to save Tyro, who dies in vain. Theo screams, calling the monster to attack him, and it charges furiously at him. However, at the last second, Theo dodges, causing the beast to crash into the wall of the labyrinth, further opening the area where gas is escaping. The creature stands dazed among the fallen stones, with one of its horns broken. Theo looks for the piece of the iron medallion to generate another spark but realizes that the piece is trapped in the monster's horn. Still dazed from the impact, the creature runs in another direction, and Theo jumps on it to retrieve his object. As soon as he gets it, the monster sees Theo running back towards the gas leak source and pursues him. Theo changes direction and heads towards Rafaela, as only there can he escape from the flames. He tries to generate sparks with the medallion against the walls and finally succeeds. The flames quickly consume the labyrinth, and Theo barely manages to reach where Rafaela is. The creature is not so lucky and is engulfed by the intense flames. The explosion is so powerful that it bursts from below into the palace, reaching Duan and causing great destruction. Theo and Rafaela escape underwater as Duke Ken and many of his servants die, crushed by the rubble. Theo and Rafaela emerge from the water, still fearful of the creature. Then they hear footsteps approaching from behind and discover it is the Minotaur, having survived the explosion but severely injured. The beast charges at Theo once more. However, Theo sees the piece of horn the creature had lost earlier and quickly grabs it. Waiting for the monster, Theo manages to drive the horn into the creature's mouth and, with the force of his own weight, seals its death by impaling its monstrous head against the wall. Theo and Rafaela hurry to find a way out of the place, and on the way, Theo finds Morna still hidden with Tur. He calls them to escape together. Everything is collapsing, and they continue moving until they finally find an exit that reveals the sunlight. As they emerge, they see that they are in the main part of the palace, and everything is destroyed. Duan is still alive among the rubble, but barely. Rafaela approaches him and suffocates him, securing a different and better future for all the people. Thank you for watching. To stay updated with our latest movie recaps, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We value your feedback, so kindly leave a comment below to continue the discussion. We'll be back with more exciting content soon. Keep pushing forward until then.